the website. If anybody doesn't want to appear on the video, then just basically switch off your video. You'll be able to listen. So if you'd like to do that now, that would be great. As I said before, I'm ably supported this evening by my friend, Assistant Governor Doug Forsyth, who is the Assistant Governor for the Borders, Tom. So, you know,
yes, I know Doug. He has had the fortune of hearing me at least twice before, so he must be a glutton.
So you're big pals.
Keen to come back, Tom.
If anybody has any questions you want to put to Tom, perhaps the best way to do it is actually to record them under the chat button, and then Doug will look at them and flag them up. Obviously, there's also the button that you can after we've heard from Tom to highlight that you would like to ask him a question. But do use the chat button as well to record what you'd like to ask him. So as I say, Tom's a Selkirk former member and now at Woodbridge in Suffolk, quite a distance. And quite a difference in countryside as well. I used to live in Norfolk at one time, so used to be down to Suffolk quite a lot. A nice part of the world, especially Woodbridge. So you've chosen well, sir. So I think without any further ado, Tom, it's over to you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to speak to you this evening. It's a first. I've spoken to quite a number of clubs in the last few weeks, and I had one district council meeting. I've got another district council meeting next week, but this is the first time I've spoken to an area group of clubs, and thank you for the invitation. It's interesting for me. You'll appreciate that a few months ago I had a very full calendar, full of events. Including, of course, your own district conference. And all those events have subsequently been cancelled. So I've been spending the last few months living on Zoom. It's not necessarily the way I would have chosen to spend the presidential year, but the upside is that I'm having a great opportunity to communicate with the sharp end of Rotary, to talk to clubs. And I think it's probably fair to say that the nature of the program normally mapped out for our RotaryGBI President is such that if it hadn't been for COVID, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to talk to as many clubs. And so I would have missed that. And I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've been doing in the last few weeks. My comments, you will appreciate, are about Rotary generally within Great Britain and Ireland. And therefore, they may apply to your club, they may not apply to your club, or they may partly apply to your club. But I'd invite you to think about whether or not you think they fully apply to your club. I'd invite you to think about what I'm saying and what its implications are for Rotary today and tomorrow. And I want to start by inviting you to ask yourselves a question. Now, I'm not going to ask you to tell me your answer, but just have it in the back of your mind. I want you to think about why you joined Rotary, why you became a Rotarian. I'll tell you why I became a Rotarian. Well, obviously, I knew about Rotary. I'd been involved in the fringes of Rotary for years before I ever joined. But I joined because I wanted to do something worthwhile for those less fortunate, to give something back, as they say. And second, it was a way of expanding my circle of acquaintanceships. As you've said, I joined in Selkirk. And when I joined, we lived in the Borders for just over a year. And it was another way to get to know people other than the people I worked with. So my principal reasons for joining were grounded in service and fellowship. Why am I still in Rotary, 36 years after I joined. Has anything changed? Well, I still want to do some good. So the service element is still there. I have friends in my current club, some of whom I've known now for nearly 30 years. The fellowship bit's still there. But what has changed, what has been added, is that I've grown to realize that there is so much more to Rotary. Now, those of you who are involved in district will, I think, empathize with what I'm about to say, because when I joined the District 1080 team 16 years ago, I made a new circle of friends, a wider circle of fellowship, and I saw another deeper side of Rotary. And since then, the familiar statistic that Rotary comprises 1.2 million members in around 200 countries worldwide, that's become real, personal. Through Rotary, I have friends and acquaintances in nearly every part of the world. And moreover, I know that wherever I go, there are friends I just haven't met yet, people who share with me Rotary's ethos, Rotary's values. And another example, when I went on a solo volunteering trip many years ago to the former Transkei in what was then the newly post-apartheid South Africa, I was in the bush, but I knew that just over the provincial border in KwaZulu-Natal, there was a Rotary club. So I had a support network, if you like, if anything went wrong. So there's a wide world of fellowship. And there's a wide world of service. I think we all start thinking in our Rotary lives about how we can help our local communities. And I think it's fundamental that that's at the heart of a club's activities. It's at the heart of Rotary's place in its community. Has to be there. But Rotary also offers so much more. The chance to make a difference, not just locally, but nationally and internationally. Let me give you another example. Way back in the days of Brezhnev, Deirdre and I had a holiday in the old Soviet Union, and seeing the sights of Moscow, Leningrad as it was then, and the Black Sea, it's very interesting and enjoyable. But you know, there was always a feeling of control, of oppression. A British Prime Minister once described the then Czechoslovakia as a faraway country of which we know nothing. But the old Soviet Empire was on our doorstep. The countries of Eastern Europe are just that, European countries. So when the walls came down, I wanted to do something to help those fellow Europeans as they emerged from the twilight of the immediate post-war decades. And so a few years ago, my club sponsored a vocational training team of Romanian pediatricians on a visit to hospitals in Norwich and Ipswich. Now, some of you may have heard people talk about their Rotary moment. I'm not sure if I have had a Rotary moment, but if I have had a Rotary moment, it came when the senior Romanian pediatrician said at our district conference of what she had learned about how children's medicine is practiced in the UK, "This visit has changed my life." That is the power of Rotary. And last year, with the help of a number of other clubs in 1080, my club's modest contribution of funds bought $40,000 worth of much needed modern equipment for those doctors' hospitals in Romania, thanks to a Rotary Foundation Global grant. That's what Rotary can do. That's the wider world of service. Well, what's the point of all that? We've all got similar stories about our Rotary life. My Rotary history is nothing special. The point is that Rotary is a gift. Past RI President Ravi Ravindran chose as his theme, "Be a gift to the world." And Rotary is a gift to the world, but it's also a gift to us, to Rotarians. We gain so much by way of fun, fellowship, satisfaction, personal growth from being part of this organization. So why are our numbers declining? Why are we failing so badly to bring in new, younger members that the average age continues to rise? Why do people spurn the gift of Rotary? And why are we so unrepresentative of the communities we serve? 30 years after we welcomed women into Rotary, only about 17% of the Rotarians in Great Britain and Ireland are women. And in our most recent demographic survey, 96% of our members describe themselves as white British or white Irish. Now, I have no problem with white British males over the age of 70. I am one. But if that is what the overwhelming majority of our membership looks like, we are in serious trouble. So why? Is the model broken? Has Rotary ceased to be relevant as we approach the end of the first quarter of the 21st century? I think the answer is no. And yes. No. Rotary is not irrelevant to a world where there is still hunger, where there is still illiteracy, where communities lack ready access to the basic necessities of life, where there is disease but poor access to modern medicine. An organization which has the ambition, reach, and capacity to say, we will eradicate polio, and which can mobilize the World Health Organization, national governments, and others in that aim is not irrelevant. And in terms of the opportunities it offers, Rotary can still be as much a gift to today's younger people as it was and is to me. But if Rotary remains relevant to today's world, is the way Rotary works still relevant? I believe, and I think the evidence bears it out, I believe that today's 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds are as motivated to serve society as any generation. And the explosion of social media demonstrates just how much younger generations wish to stay connected. But you do not need to join a club and pay dues to give service to your community. You do not need to join a club and pay dues to be connected. So why join Rotary? The answer to that question is that Rotary has so much more to offer. It opens to members the opportunity, as I have said, to serve not just locally, but nationally and internationally. It opens to members the opportunity of being part of a truly global family. And what's more, a family which espouses high ethical standards in our business and professional lives. It opens to members the opportunity to harness the power and reach of the Rotary Foundation so as massively to increase the impact of our service at home as well as overseas. And it opens to members the opportunity of being part of a worldwide group of people committed to world understanding, peace, and conflict resolution. Surveys of younger people indicate that they are as keen to give something back to society as any other generation. And what's more, that they welcome mentoring, and significantly that they want to be part of something big and have a global rather than a purely local perspective. Doesn't Rotary tick these boxes? But too often, someone who might be attracted to these opportunities faces the expectation that they will meet a longish club meeting nearly every week with the time commitment that involves. The expectation that at those weekly meetings they will have a meal and perhaps a drink with the cost commitment that involves. When they meet the club, they are being asked to consider joining. They too often find themselves in the midst of a group of mainly men of their fathers or even their grandfather's generation. Too often it's a club with declining members, struggling to find people willing to take office, struggling to do meaningful service. And when they meet the club they're being asked to join, too often they find it old-fashioned. I vividly remember the comments of a member of my club's satellite club who described the way in which Woodbridge Deben conducts our meetings as quaint. And that's why I started this talk with a question about why you joined Rotary. Because we need to think about what Rotary is really about and recognize that a lot of the rest is just habit, practice, tradition, familiar, but inessential. The plain fact is that the traditional Rotary model of a weekly lunch or an evening meeting with a meal and a speaker is grounded in the way people networked and socialized in 1905. There are plenty of Rotarians to whom the traditional Rotary model has become a way of life and they're happy with it, and I'm one of them. But I think the traditional model is pretty well broken when we look to the future of our organization. People today network and socialize in a totally different way. And too often, when we're trying to recruit new younger members, we're trying to squeeze these potential new members into our traditional model, rather than creating a Rotary which reflects how they want to live their lives, how they want to enjoy their Rotary, a Rotary in their image. So what do we need to do about it? I think we need to look at our club and ask ourselves, do we represent the future of Rotary in our community? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everything about today's Rotary is wrong, outmoded, outdated, and should be scrapped. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if we want Rotary to be thriving in the second quarter of the 21st century, and we're nearly there, we need to think about what really matters. What is the essence of Rotary? Hold on to that and build on that. And we need to be brave enough to stimulate, encourage, and foster new models of Rotary, responsive to the lifestyles of the people we want to attract, rather than, as I've said, trying to fit new people into old models. And let's think about our service. Because if there are different ways of continuing to enjoy Rotary fellowship, we need to remember that the other key thing which motivates people to join is service, and it's hands-on service more than anything else which attracts people. And I was interested to hear the tail end of your meeting just before I joined, and what some of your clubs are doing in terms of hands-on service to help their local community. But as clubs age, their capacity to undertake meaningful service shrinks. And yet it is hands-on service, as I have said, more than anything else which attracts people. Few people are motivated to join Rotary by the prospect of shaking a tin outside Tesco. Why join Rotary if a club's service comprises nothing more than raising money for good causes? Now, we need to raise money for polio eradication. We need to raise money for foundation. Our service projects need to be funded, but raising money should not be an end in itself. It should not be the core of our service, the reason for our existence. The experience of the past few months has been illuminating. It's true that sadly some clubs have closed and some clubs are dormant or nearly so, but other clubs have recruited new members. Attendance at a lot of district events, assemblies and district councils has in most instances greatly increased. Rotarians have adapted really well to different ways. What happens when the world finally returns to normal? What is absolutely certain is that the COVID pandemic is a massively disruptive event. We cannot expect the post-COVID world to look the same as it did last year. Equally, we cannot expect the post-COVID Rotary world to look as it did last year. And when we finally emerge from all this and we think about the future, we need to be thinking about why we became a Rotarian and consider what will attract the next generation of Rotarians to join. What will prevent the next generation of potential Rotarians from joining? Is my club attractive to that next generation? And what do the answers to those questions lead me to do? Now, having asked those questions, some currently successful clubs will have no need to change. Some clubs will change, will innovate, will vary their meeting arrangements and style. But unless our club, your club, represents the future of Rotary in your community or changes in order to do so, then it needs to be starting a new club which does. A club which reflects, as I've said, the lifestyles of the next generation of potential Rotarians and allows them to enjoy Rotary the way they wish to enjoy Rotary, not necessarily the way we did. A club which meets informally, which is less demanding on members' time or pocket, which is more family friendly, which is focused on the kind of service which inspires people to join. Now, if that is the route we're going to follow, starting new clubs, it won't be easy. Traditionally, as everybody knows, Rotarians have found Rotarians. And for many of us, I'll speak personally, our circle of contacts has grown smaller. So how do we get started? I think the answer to that question depends on the kind of community that you're in. I think we need to be looking at areas where our potential younger members are to be found. Now, depending on your community, that may be in business parks, in large firms, in larger institutions such as hospitals. It might be among those now working from home who miss the fellowship of the workplace. It might be among young families in new housing developments, among individuals committed to a particular cause. However we find them, we need to set ourselves the target of ensuring there is a vibrant, active club attractive to the future generations of Rotarians in each of our significant communities. If yours is that club, then long may you prosper. If it isn't, I encourage you to help create it. As I say, I don't pretend it would be easy, but we owe it to the people of the world who benefit from our service to future-proof Rotary. The idea of finding 20 individuals to charter a new club has always been daunting, but the flexibilities we now have offer solutions. We ought to be able to find a small nucleus of people interested in Rotary, committed to the idea, whom we can help and support, and to help them find friends to find a minimum of 8 to start a satellite and see it grow. It has been done. It can be done. Rotary is a gift to the world and a gift to its members. And by growing Rotary, by bringing in a new diverse generation of Rotarians, it is a gift you can give. And in giving, receive the gift of knowing you're playing a small part in securing its future. A few minutes ago, I mentioned past RI President Ravi. I don't know how many of you on this call were in Rotary in what was then District 102 when I joined Selkirk in 1984, or know the history of your district well enough to know who the district governor was in November 1984 when I joined Selkirk. But I'll tell you, it was a man called John Kenny And of course, when John became RI president in 2009, he chose as his theme, "The future of Rotary is in your hands." Never has that been truer than it is today. Thank you very much for inviting me tonight. Thank you for listening. Stay well and good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. That was inspiring. Thank you. Doug, should we have a look and see at the, we've got some chat questions, I think. Right. Okay. Let's have a look.
I don't see any actually here just now.
No, there's something. Has anybody got any questions they would like to ask of Tom? Here's your opportunity. Louise, did you want to, sorry, beg your pardon. I thought we had a hand up there.
There's a hand. It's Clark W's iPad.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Need to unmute. I wonder if I can do that.
I don't think you can. I think
Yeah.
I think he has to do it himself.
All right. Is that better?
Right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, just taking up your point about it's a problem in our club is the age demographic. I mean, going back a few years ago, there was the Round Table organisation, and I remember Dalkeith Round Table. We had quite a lot of synergy with the Rotary. There was golf competitions and whatnot, and at the tender age of 40, you had to leave the Round Table, and Dalkeith Round Table still, it's the 41 club now, still runs the Burn Suppers and one or two other things. I thought that was a really good progression that it's gone by the wayside. Do you see any future in trying to reconstitute the Round Table?
I think we've got enough difficulty.
I'm saying not necessarily the club, but you know, they're bound to, you know, it was an organisation, a really good organisation that's gone by the wayside. You know.
I know. I was a member of Round Table in Ayrshire, and yeah, as I said in my talk, I had long exposure to Rotary long before I became a member, and we had a good relationship with Rotary in Girvan, where I was in Round Table. I think they've made the same mistake largely that we have. Somehow or another, there was a number of decades in which, I don't know whether it was just comfortable or easy or whatever, but we stopped rejuvenating ourselves. We stopped bringing in younger members. And of course, the problem, once you stop doing that, then the whole average age rises, and it becomes increasingly more difficult to bring in younger members. Now, when I joined Selkirk, I was 36. I might have been the youngest member at that time, but not noticeably so, shall we say. Now, if a 36-year-old came to my club, I can't talk about your clubs, but if a 36-year-old came along to my club next week, if we could meet, they would stand out like a sore thumb. And so if we want to make ourselves younger, we need to be bringing in people in their 60s and in their late 50s, because we've lost that. And I think it's very difficult. It's not impossible, but I think it's very difficult for clubs, I'll talk personally, clubs like mine, to totally rejuvenate ourselves, to create the kind of culture and ambience that characterized clubs like Round Table clubs when I was a member, where the people were in their 20s and 30s. And that's why the big thrust of my talk has been really about new clubs, because I think clubs like mine need to continue themselves by bringing in the 50s and the 60-year-olds. But that cannot represent the future of Rotary in the long term. We need to be bringing in the younger people. And by that, I mean the people of the sort of age I was when I joined, people in their 30s, people in their 40s. And the only way we're going to do that is by creating a Rotary which suits their lifestyles. In other words, by creating clubs which have that kind of culture. Now that actually might be Roundtable in disguise. Maybe it is Roundtable in disguise, but if so, I think that's what we need to be doing.
It's interesting you say that, Tom, because I started in Rotaract, and then from Rotaract I went to Roundtable, and then from Roundtable I went to Rotary, and I've been in service organisations since I was 23. And I remember when I was 28, I was asked, you know, did I want to join a Rotary club? And I said no, because, you know, the same things that we're hearing today. We've just done Liz Martin and I have just spoken to about 40 people from our resilience group that was in the town. And the feedback that we got from them was just what you're saying. You know, whether we like it or not, they were saying, oh, I don't want to come to weekly meetings. I certainly don't want to be part of an organisation which we regard as staid. They use the words like old men in suits. We don't want to sit down for a meal. It's costly, all these things. And I know that's hurts to say that, but that's what they were telling us, you know. And we're trying to, hopefully, we'll get the support for creating a satellite club. But the words you use like hands-on service, that's what these people want to do. It's spot on and family friendly, getting the parents, some of the people that we've got in our group of 12 have children, and they want to actually expose their children to community service so that, you know, as part of their upbringing, which is very interesting. So they want to involve the children with the activities that we're doing. So it is a completely different form of Rotary. And as you say, it's about what their needs are. Their needs are different to what my generation is. But we're hoping to be successful there. So, you know, we have to be brave enough, I think. I think you use some word like brave enough. I think we do have to be brave enough to embrace some of these things. But it's not easy. But certainly from what we've seen, dipping our toe in the pond, the things that you have said are just, you know, just resonating all the time.
We need to be brave enough to let them run their Rotary the way they want, even if the traditionalists amongst us say, oh, that's not Rotary. Well, if there's fellowship, if there's service, if they adhere to our core values, if they adhere to the four-way test, if they adhere to our aspirations of service above self, if they support foundation, all this sort of thing, that's Rotary. Even if they don't meet every week and have a loyal toast and so on. And what you said about your transition is very interesting. My club had a Rotaract club, and they worked very closely with us on a number of service projects. They did their own thing, but they also worked with us on service projects. They weren't very good at bringing new members, and they all basically got to the age of 30 at the same time. And so we just blithely said to them, oh, well, you've got to leave Rotaract, you'll come and join us. And they said, no, we don't want to go along on a Monday evening to sit with old men in suits. And we nearly lost them. I say nearly because when satellite clubs came in, we said to the sort of ringleaders of the Rotaract club, you were interested in Rotary in the past. We have a satellite club, which basically comprises the Rotaractors of old. And we still work with them occasionally, and they do their thing their own way, and they're in Rotary.
Excellent. Anybody else want to ask a question? Ian, do you want to unmute yourself, Pennycook?
Sure, thank you. Yeah. Hello. I agree wholeheartedly, I think, with, I was going to say almost everything you said, but I can't actually think of anything I disagreed with. But I do want to, what I want to do is pass on a question to you that was asked of me by a member of our club. And I'll tell you what my response was as well, but what I'm interested to hear is what you would say. We can probably assume that we don't want to change our club from having meals and the social side of the meeting that we enjoy. So if you assume that, and the question was concerning fears about, the question is what about the fact that if we start another club in the town, satellite club, call it, that will diminish the status of our club in the town. And my answer was, well, if we're not going to alter our club, and I'm not against, I'm actually don't want to lose these things from our club, what is the alternative? That's what I said. What's your take on it?
Well, my answer is that the existence of another club in the town doesn't in any way diminish the status of the existing clubs. And the other argument I've heard, I'll come back to that in a moment. The other argument I've heard from some clubs is, oh, well, we don't want to start another club because we'll be in competition with them for members. Well, probably you won't be. And if you're not recruiting new members, then starting another club isn't changing your situation at all. But I don't see the existence of, I mean, I live in a rural part of Suffolk, and my club is Woodbridge. Woodbridge is Richard, you know, Woodbridge is a small market town of about 7,500 of population. But the Rotarian membership of the two clubs in Woodbridge is drawn from Woodbridge and the surrounding area. I don't live in Woodbridge. I live 5 miles away in what is virtually a suburb of Ipswich. So we've got two clubs in Woodbridge and a satellite club. But none of the three of us impact negatively on the other two. And in fact, together we are Rotary in Woodbridge. We might meet separately, we might meet differently. Mine is an evening meeting. The old Woodbridge Club is a lunchtime meeting. The satellite club is an eccentric meeting. We meet in different ways. We do different things. We have totally different culture, but we are all Rotary. And from time to time, we do things together, and we badge ourselves as Rotary in Woodbridge. And it means that if somebody says, "What's Rotary?" and you tell them, "Oh, that's quite interesting." There's a range of different options open to them to join. They don't have to go and have lunch on a Friday at the Bull. They don't have to have dinner on a Monday at Ufford Park. They can find another way. They can take their choice. They can take their pick. So it doesn't diminish the viability, the status, the authority of any of the clubs. It just augments Rotary, and that's what we ought to be about.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
Okay, I have another one.
Yep, go ahead.
Can I ask another one?
Yes.
Yeah, how well did you feel your views were represented in the article in Rotary magazine? Was it a couple of issues ago?
On
the interview with yourself?
Very well, yes.
Were you? Okay. There's just, there was no, the word fellowship wasn't ever mentioned in the article.
Was it not?
No,
Right,
it
well, that's
wasn't.
interesting.
No, you didn't write it. That's not an accusation. You didn't write the article. But
Well, I was half of the interview.
yeah,
Dave King asked the questions and I answered them. Of course, that's the point. Is you respond to questions which are raised. You're not always totally in control. Getting it. That's interesting. I must reread it.
yeah.
But yeah, fellowship is hugely important. I think it's important not to misunderstand what fellowship means. I mean, I think fellowship is hugely important. I think we are not a service organization with members. We are a members organization which does service. And however we organize ourselves, it is important that we have that friendship and that we have that mutuality of understanding. To me, it's hugely important that I'm part of an international organization and that wherever I go, I can find a Rotary Club. And if there's any way I can communicate with them, I can go and join them and I can enjoy their company and know roughly what they're talking about. So fellowship is hugely important. And if it appeared not at all in that interview, then I'll change my answer. No, it didn't fully represent my views, but yes.
Okay, thank you. I prefer your views as I prefer your views as you gather, as you've expressed them today.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay. Then I think that if everybody's asked what they would like to ask, I'll just close the meeting by saying, Tom, thank you very much indeed for giving us some of your time to the east. It's been really good to hear you. And I've got to say that I think you're hitting the nail on the head. And it makes hopefully us all think about how we can contribute to help Rotary grow and that we don't lose this precious organisation which does so much, not only at home, but abroad as well. So thank you for your time. And can I just say that it'll be good night from you and it'll be good night from me. And at the same time, I wish you a safe journey home. And thank you very much indeed for all your time. And a round of applause for Tom, if I might say so. We really appreciate it. And you've been good value. You've been good value, Tom. So thank you very much indeed.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you this evening. And I shall now journey, I hope, safely from my dining room to my living room.
You can have a gin and tonic.
It's a bit late for me for that tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, night and okay.
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow when I'm not doing a talk.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night.
Thank you. Good night. Good night. Nice to see you all. Take care.
You too.